Hello and welcome to Marriage Investors. And I am Cel, and this is
Val.
and Val. Glad to be back. I'll be been away from you for a couple of weeks, but we're gonna be on point now going forward. So today's topic, we're gonna kind of shift a little bit. Our first two episodes, we talked about worthwhile marriage, and we went into some reasons why, you know, we have everyone desires marriage and that topic. But we're going to kind of shift this week. We're going to talk about joining to one another. Why do you think in Genesis chapter 2:24 that God said, and I'm going to read it, he said, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So, do you realize when that was written, Valerie, that was told to Adam and Eve, and they were the first parents, really.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a father and a mother. God had created Adam, and then he created Eve, and now he told them to leave their father and their mother.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's important for us to realize that, yes, our parents have raised us, right? We were brought up in the household. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. It's just that I know you said that there is the idea that parents didn't even exist, and the Lord established a posture that we need to have in reference to leave and cleave and joining one to each other. You know why he did that? Because he's all knowing. And he realized that if you are getting advice from his parents or your parents, that you won't come together, you two, and form your own identity as a married couple. It's
So-
amazing. I'm just thinking about how the Lord is so wise, in that he established that, he placed it just like he did everything else, just like he fashioned the woman, just like he let Adam, name the animals. Now he's coming to saying, now when you get married, Adam, this is how it needs to be. So because he realized he goes before us, so he already knows what it will, what will happen, how much havoc it can have on your marriage, and we know that. Have you seen a marriage? Have you been seen where? Do you think if we didn't leave or cleave our parents, how do you think our marriage would be?
Yeah, well, I think we'll be holding on to a lot of things and that our parents are saying to us, right? It could be a lot of interference in it. It could be a lot of hands in that, and there was in those relationships. But let's kind of share a little bit about us. I mean, we live like so far from our parents during our early days,
Mhm.
and we didn't have that parents' influence or you know. Plus, our parents wanted us to be on our own and make our own decisions, and so I think we was kind of in a unique situation, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we had to, because we didn't have our parents right there in our space, we had to come up with our own ways of doing things. And it made it easier, I say, to become that oneness and leaving and cleaving of ways and just us figuring out. I think what helped us during our marriage time, because we were distant and our parents had that same type of mindset, is that to leave and cleave. They did not want to come in and interfere and tell us how to run our marriage. They just, I remember, there's times when we might share certain things, not that much, but our parents did not intervene a lot in our marriage. I can name the times. We've been married over 40 years, and they did not. One time I think it was an incident where I had touched base with my mom, And she just made it clear, that Val, hey, that's your husband. And you and him, it wasn't nothing dangerous, nothing like that. It was just something that I needed to do that Marcellus was asking me. He did not take sides and try tearing us apart. He said, you listen to your husband, what he's saying. And it was on finances, how to do a budget. And she said, you can't do that. And just the idea that she said that, it caused me, she said, you need to listen to him and find ways to operate your finances. But just that point right there shows that she understood the purpose of that oneness and that to leave and cleave and let us.
But I also, in the same thing, by us being distant away, I do feel that we left out, we didn't have that close family support that I see a lot of families have. You know what I mean? Whereas when they were raised around their grandparents, they had that wisdom that their grandparents would instill in the children. I think we missed out on a lot of that. Although we took trips to see them in a lot of cases, but I do feel that we missed out on some of that training that we could have got. Of course, when we visited my mom, she instilled a lot and helped you, right?
Yeah, she did. And my mom.
Right.
So I think that's a difference of them training us and giving us ideas than that idea of cleave. It's just, I think that's a total difference in that cleave. That I feel that cleave is more like the Lord want that bond to be so strong of us as a married couples. He no longer want it to be where you're going to have a biological cleavage to your parents. You're going to always want to honor your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And however you're doing it at the leave and cleave, you still want to have a way of honoring your parents, at the same time. But when it comes to your unity, that when the Lord said you be joined together as one, he really meant that. So he really meant that when you come together, you're no longer in that family relationship, that you're in the family relationship. But when it comes down to decisions, making an agreement on different things or training your kids, you two first must be on one accord, you and I. So he made that clear, even though I might have come have a different idea, probably on training for spanking, an example. And then you might have a different. So we have to come together, you and I, we're the union. And we get our ideas from our parents and different ones all around. But it's at the end of the day, it's you and I.
But that's kind of what we want to kind of talk a little bit more about is leaving, like you said, leaving the father and the mother. But at the same time, prioritizing, I think it's about prioritizing that person, that your spouse has a priority over your family.
Yes, and that's what I was sharing. My mom was always said that basically, when she made that example that you're to listen to your husband right there, she was making that priority. She was saying that it's no longer what I say. If your husband have said that, he's the one that you need to be listened to in that era. Even though they might have suggestions, which is good, but she did not want to divide. That was the key. She did not want to divide our relationship. And both parents did not interfere with our marriage of anything. They would say, how can you make that right? What can you do to solidify that? And they always basically try doing something to bring us more of a unity and be together. So I'm just, I'm chewing on that leaving part too, where I'm just chewing on it even more so, But it is more, like you said, it is the priority.
Now, let me kind of shift it a little bit because in the background, you can see my book says Forever Together, Unveiling the Keys to a Lasting Marriage Connection. It's right up here. And we just recently published it just a few weeks ago. And in that, I kind of take a little different twist on it, and I talk about letting go of some of the things in the past. And I'm gonna kind of hit on that. It says, and I kind of wrote in there that it means old habits, emotional attachments, and ways of thinking. Because, even with your family had a certain way of thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had habits that you not necessarily want to have. And then, of course, we just talked about that emotional connection. So your parents or even your closest friend, now the first person you turn to is your spouse. And then just figuring out your new priorities together. And then, like you said, you got different of opinions now, different views. And it's nothing wrong, don't you think, Val, with having different views of opinion. He made all of us different. So we bring those things together and work those things together. That's where you develop that bond of unity and purpose, vision, and spirit. So as you develop that, your marriage takes a different direction. You start to be enjoying together, and that's where that two becoming one, right? And that two becoming one takes some intentional time and intentional effort. All right?
It takes precedence.
Yeah. It takes precedence over things.
Right. But it's very, and I think in today's time, most people understand that leave and cleave. They've heard it through marriage. I think more nowadays they might write different contracts or covered, but overall, most of my friends and different ones, they understand that whether we do it or not, but they still understand that now you're in a different relationship. You are now from a family, you're into that bond of oneness in a marriage, which is the first institution that God created before he did Cain and Abel, before a family came along. But before a family came, they didn't have any children or anything. So he established that from the beginning. So anything I say that the Lord established to become one, leave and cleave, he wants us to walk. He has a purpose. And I can see it now in our marriage, how it has helped that our parents did not intervene and they did not cause separation.
But it causes...
They caused us to, anything, any advice or whatever they did, it brought us, they always directed us back to valuing each other. But if I ask your mom something or you ask my mom, they still value each other's opinion over everything, yours or mine. They want to keep that unity solidified. They understood that. So that was a blessing for us.
Yeah, that was a blessing for us to have both. But I would say, how would you say the relationship, though, that we had with your parents, the relationship I had with your parents, and the relationship that you had with my parents? I would say they were...
You want to ask
great.
me?
Yeah, I'm asking.
Yeah, I had a good relationship with your mom and your father. They established that before even marriage, coming to our space, getting to know them. And they said for me to call them mom and dad. Some people's not as happy with that or not, but I was pleased.
What's that? The new term today is what?
Yeah, daughter-in-law. He said, they did not allow us to say daughter-in-law because it seemed so far out. They said, you are our daughter, so I was just their daughter. So just that, and Dad, Brian used to ask, well, what church you go to or whatever. He said, y'all should be one.
Embrace
He
unity.
embraced unity. They embraced unity.
And then your parents did too.
Yes.
They made me feel very, very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom was so hospitable, and your mom and dad was so hospitable, right? So when I came there and I got a chance to know you, this is my son. They took me right in. And of course, I guess they understood that. And it wasn't I guess we didn't have that. So I think that was a blessing for us
Yes, it was. Yeah.
to have both sides of each of our families. Now, things today are different as far as culturally sometimes. And it could be, not necessarily, I think it's important because when you marry someone, you marry into that family.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's a whole topic that we can talk about, family dynamic
Mm-hmm.
and the habits that you develop from your family, bringing that in. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. But I think let's just kind of wrap things up from today. We talked about the importance of leaving that family ties and being connected to your spouse and having that person as their priority. That your wife and your husband as the first priority, the first relationship that you have on the earth. And until I think that's very important that we really get that down when we're talking about unity in marriage.
That's right. I agree.
So you got anything else that's on your heart today, Valerie?
I'm thinking is how the Lord established that leave and cleave, and no parents wasn't even on, no parents wasn't on the earth. And it just shows of the allness of the Lord and how he go before us. And so it's like he just wants us to enjoy life and operate not in division. When he says the two become one, he didn't want no hindrances in it. So it's just amazing me continuously just digging into this space a little bit more of his purpose and how he's already have it set up so we can have a enjoyable and a flourishing marriage. So.
Okay. So until next time, we just encourage you to invest in your marriage to strengthen your connection. We're just here to have those conversations on the topic. We're going to start on a lot of different topics, but we just want to kind of set some foundation on from the beginning. In our first 3 episodes, we've really dug into this being in the beginning from Genesis 2. And today we kind of hit 25, but to let you know that it's important to go by God's principles, focus on Him. The most important thing I want to leave with you today. So until our next episode, forever together.
You too.
Have a good day.